Rand, I need another episode of Fully Cinematic.
Hollywood has been in the remake business for quite some time, but recently studios have embraced the greedy trend of adapting movies into musicals and then readapting the musicals back into movies. Following on the heels of Waitress and Mean Girls, super director Steven Spielberg's 1985 drama, which is itself an adaptation of Alice Walker's Pulitzer Prize winning novel, has gotten a sing and dance treatment as well. Does it hold up? Let's find out together as I run down The Color Purple. And oh yeah, there will be spoilers. We start in 1909 as a couple of girls, Nettie and Celie Harris, sing and giggle together in a tree on Sunday morning in a small Georgia town. It's quickly revealed that the latter is pregnant when the duo walks to church with their father, Alfonso. That evening, Celie reminisces about her mother teaching her how to sew using a piece of purple fabric. A labor pain jolts her back to the present as she soon delivers a boy who she names Adam. Alfonso, who turns out to be the father,
What?
demands that she hand him over and subsequently takes him out into the night to parts unknown. He told her that he took her previous baby, Olivia, to God, but the two-time mom is skeptical. Later, Nettie's serenaded by a stranger riding on a horse on her walk home from school. His game brings a smile to her face until the spell is broken when he compliments her feet. Because as she points out, those motherfuckers are covered in corns and bunions. Meanwhile, Celie sees her daughter inside Alfonso's grocery store, but he shoos her away. Through the window, she glimpses an unfamiliar woman playing with the baby. Cut to the second big musical number of many as she daydreams. Her fantasy is interrupted by Alfonso, who rushes her upstairs. Nettie's admirer, Albert Johnson, asks Al for her hand in marriage, but he counteroffers with Celie instead because Net's smart and on track to become a school teacher. Johnson initially declines the deal, eggs and livestock in exchange for Celie, but eventually relents, takes her home to his three kids, and backhands her when she fails to complete her chores as quickly as he'd like. Johnson, who insists on being called Mr., lost his wife when she ran off with another man, but he says he didn't care because he had a side chick. Nettie shows up because Alfonso tried to get handsy.
Oh, hey, no.
What's with all this fuckery? And Mr. agrees to let her move in. In due time, he tries her, come the fuck on. And when she objects, he kicks her out in the rain at gunpoint. But she promises Celie that she'll write. In 1917, the latter still hasn't gotten a letter. Mr.'s son, Harpo, and his pregnant girlfriend, Sophia, track him to a local gin house so that she can meet him. Mr. objects to them marrying and bans her from his house, stating that she's unworthy of Harpo. One morning, Mr. is awakened by his son and a crew building a house on nearby swampland that he inherited from his grandfather at the age of 16. Meanwhile, Mr. still listens to songs recorded by homegrown jazz singer Shug Avery, who he views as the one who got away, and keeps a framed picture of her on his nightstand. When Celie visits the newlyweds at their finished home, Sophia orders Harpo's symphony to simultaneously watch the baby and make tea, which she complains about for being too cold. Following their wedding, Celie consoles Harpo while he nurses a knot that his bride put on his head. He confides in her that Sophia won't listen to him. Celie advises him to beat her, which eventually prompts Sophia to confront her and to leave her husband. Consequently, Harpo decides to convert his house into a juke joint. Shug, local preacher Reverend Samuel Avery's daughter, arrives in town amid fanfare and is chauffeured to Mister's house, where she resides during her stay. She complains when he brings her breakfast in bed, so his bait-ass has Celie deliver another course, which she devours. She has Celie crank her gramophone and wash her back as she takes a bubble bath. Afterwards, Celie combs the diva's hair, too. Shug tells her that Mr. doesn't even stand up to his own father and is surprised to learn that she didn't know her own husband's name. Of course, Mr.'s father visits and Celie secretly spits in his water. Now that's a nasty bitch. Later, as Celie picks peas, Shug tells her that it's a sin to walk past the color purple and not notice it. When Shug catches up with Harpo, he invites her to sing at his joint's opening night and introduces her to his new girl, Squeak. After he and his crew post flyers, Shug makes a dramatic entrance to a packed house. Sophia brings her new man, prizefighter Buster Broadnax, with whom she shares a daughter, Henrietta, along with his four other kids and Harpo's son. When Harpo dances with Sophia, Squeak slaps her, which leads to a bar brawl. Shug tells Celie that she's headed to Memphis and will be back in a month's time. Celie begs her to stay, so as consolation, she takes her to the 1926 All-African American picture show, The Flying Ace, about a black pilot who fought in France during the First World War. They serenade one another during a fantasy sequence and share a real kiss in the balcony before getting the scissors out together back at the house. The following morning, Shug goes to get the mail when the postman arrives and intercepts a letter from Nettie, who reveals that she's been writing for years. At Shug's suggestion, she and her new lover snoop around and find unopened correspondence from Nettie. When Shug finally departs, Celie begs her to take her along. The letters reveal that Nettie took a job as a nanny with a minister and his wife, who'd unknowingly adopted Celie's kids. They moved to Africa, where British colonizers ran them off their land to a refugee camp. Back in Georgia, Buster and Sophia take Celie to town, where the mayor's wife, Millie, a white woman, asks Sophia to be her maid. When she declines, an argument ensues and the mayor slaps her. She punches him and is in turn knocked out by another white guy. Following her arrest, Celie visits her in jail weekly and finds a broken woman who begs her not to leave. When she's kicked out by the guards, Celie walks out singing a misandrous song blaming women's troubles on men. And the movie itself contradicts the lyrics. She's released in 1936 after serving a 6-year sentence on the condition that she work as Millie's maid. After finding an open letter from Nettie, Mr. slaps fire out of Celie and orders her to shave him with a straight razor.
What did you say?
They're interrupted by Shug's arrival with her husband Grady. Harpo's family, Mr. Sr., and Sophia join them for dinner. After Shug announces her plan to take Celie to Memphis, Tennessee, she confronts Mr. Jr. when he objects. Celie then threatens him with a knife before the others take her outside. Despite a conspicuous lack of an invitation, Squeak then tells Harpo that she's going to Memphis too, and asserts that her name is actually Mary Agnes. All this drama miraculously restores Sophia's spirit. Before riding off, Mr. talks shit to Celie, who responds by cursing him. Subsequently, Mr.'s fields are infested by crop pests. Meanwhile, Shug serenades Celie at her mansion, after which she gets a phone call informing her that Alfonso has died. Reverend Avery's sermon about forgiveness at his funeral inspires Shug, but the First Lady interrupts her attempt to reconnect with him. Afterwards, Celie's informed that Alfonso was actually her stepfather and that her real dad bequeathed the house and the general store to both her and Nettie. She then converts the latter into a pants shop during yet another musical number. Harpo reunites with his abusive ex-wife, and a drunken mister confesses that he's proud of his success with the juke joint. When he stumbles walking through his burnt fields, he remembers his wife's curse. The mailman wakes him up the following morning with a letter from Nettie, who wants to return to the U.S. but has lost her passport. Inspired to help, Mr. sells his land for the money to pay a lawyer. He then returns Celie's belongings when he visits her shop to buy a pair of pants, and in order to help the business, he purchases a sparkly pair that no one else wants. When he shoots a weak jumper, she suggests that they just be friends. Then she sings as she reminisces about Nettie and her kid and takes stock of her life. In 1947, Mr. gets a letter informing him that Nettie and the kids have arrived. Shug reconnects with Reverend Avery at his church, via a duet, of course. At a cookout, Nettie pulls up with Olivia and Adam and the latter's wife, Abina, and his son and daughter. Another musical ensues, but it's mercifully short. Roll credits. Like the '85 film, this one also snagged the Best Supporting Actress Academy Award nomination. But unlike that movie, this one failed to break even, losing the studio an estimated $40 million. Renowned author Walter Mosley once explained that his career got off to a rocky start due to publishers' skepticism about the market potential of stories about Black men. He described the '80s literary industry as, quote, a white feminist machine prepared to idolize and come to grips with Black women and their struggles, a lot of which were with Black men, unquote. The Spielberg movie has been widely criticized for reinforcing racist stereotypes of Black men with its depictions of the male characters as either violent racists or meek cowards. It's certainly true that the white characters, male and female, are shown in a negative light, But even in the instances when one of the black women displays toxicity, it's presented as praiseworthy rather than shameful. For example, Sheila is chastised for advising Harpo to strike his wife. But considering the fact that she hit him first, as evidenced by the knot on his head that he was nursing at the time, she was essentially recommending that he stand up for himself. And that's not even getting into her emotional abuse. She's more or less a female version of Mr. She's basically Mrs. I can't speak to how this version compares to the 80s film, the controversial novel, or the stage musical on which it's based, because I haven't seen any of that shit. And I'm probably not going to. But this Misandra noir movie sure as shit upheld those nasty caricatures. It's filled with black people speaking in the usual Hollywood broken English as well. Fuck this movie. If you want to see a coming-of-age tale about black women, some of whom spent most of their lives in Africa, more than the loss of their moms, overcoming adversity and learning family secrets, skip this cringe-inducing bullshit and check out Wakanda Forever instead. Shout out to everybody who hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. But I've had enough of this conversation and this dishwater movie, so I'm logging the fuck off.
Fully cinematic.